Come on now, fellas! We've got to answer the bell. Now let's go!
Welcome into a Monday edition. It's Reaction Monday of Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Chris Yow, joined by Mo Patton, and it is a fantastic Monday here on Main Street Sports Today. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up. You saw the title card there. David UBBEN of the Athletics going to join us. We're also going to be joined by West Virginia Sports Now's Mike ASTI. ASTI. Like Aldi, but with the S. So it's going to be fun. We've got tons of news to get into, and boy, what a great start to the week it's going to be. Our last week in studio before SEC Media Days. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment as well. But first, Mo, how was the weekend?
It's good. It was good. It was kind of the calm before the storm. You know, the dead period wrapped up this weekend, and so it's high school sports season starting today and going through the week of Memorial Day.
Gosh,
summer's over.
For all intents and purposes.
Isn't that something?
It's done, and boy, what a nice day to get started if you are a high school football player, because it could be worse.
It could be a lot worse. It will be a lot worse.
It will be a lot worse.
Yeah.
But right now, coming off that week of rain, of course, it couldn't have rained this week for them, right? No, it had to rain all while while they were on vacation and on the dead period.
Yeah, the coaches were like, yes, let's get this out of the way. Yes.
The diabolical.
Yes. Yeah, they were, the Jack Nicholson meme. Yes.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Oh man, boy, I am super pumped about today, and we've got a lot, again, great stuff coming your way. I got a chance to go to the Sounds game yesterday. That was really, really great. So for those of you, if you are brand new watching the show, if I met you yesterday, we welcome you. We hope that you will give us a chance to bring you the most timely and comprehensive sports and news coverage in all of Middle Tennessee for the next 90 minutes or so. We'll start by giving you the results from this weekend and tonight's very limited schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
The Monday Rundown is brought to you by Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education in Murray County. Give them a call today at 931-388-5831 or visit zioneagles.org to schedule your appointment today. Zion Christian Academy, Prepared for college, equipped for purpose.
Summer baseball action over the weekend in the King City Classic. It was Post 19 taking a 5-4 win over Panola Post 118 in the opener, and then defeating Lafayette Post 55 13-1. In bracket play, they down Troy Post 73-1. Always a good time when you can beat Troy. It's not easy to do very often, so well done there. But did fall in the championship of that tournament to Panola Post 118 7-4. Major League Baseball action. The Atlanta Braves took 2 of 3 from the Tampa Bay Rays, 2-1, 6-1, before falling on Sunday 10-4. And for the first time in history, the Chicago Cubs take a road series at Yankee Stadium. 3-0 on Friday, 7-4 on Sunday, but the Yankees did get the 6-3 win on Saturday.
Milwaukee took 2 of 3 from Cincinnati at American Family Field, defeating the Reds 7-3 on Friday and 1-0 on Sunday. But that Reds 8-5 victory on Saturday featured 3 stolen bases in the span of 2 pitches by Ellie De La Cruz. And the Sporting News had an article this weekend that said Ellie De La Cruz needs to be in the All-Star game. And I can't argue with it.
I wouldn't disagree.
Yeah. Elsewhere, Seattle took 2 of 3 from Houston, winning 10-1 and 3-1, falling in the middle game 3-2. It was the Cardinals taking the final 2 of 3 from the White Sox, winning 3-0 and 4-3 and 10 after dropping the opener 8-7. And Padres took 2 of 3 from the Mets, falling 7-5 and 10 innings on Friday. The Padres won 3-1, and I can't institute. The banner was over the score. I could not read it.
Baseball Sounds down to Columbus on Friday, and then a 7-6 win on Sunday. Saturday was canceled due to rain. Sunday was abbreviated due to rain. So it was a complete game, but
The rain did not go away, huh?
Did not, in fact. WNBA action. Washington down to Indiana 96-88. It was the Atlanta Dream 82, Chicago Sky 68. It was Dallas with
The Wings.
bit of an upset. The Wings 80, Las Vegas 78. The Aces are human after all. Minnesota downs Phoenix 75-64.
Also, the Liberty with an 80-76 win over the Storm. The Sun down the Mystics 92-84. The Wings, again, 77. The Fever 76. The Aces bounced back with a 113-89 win over the Lynx.
Took that one out on the wrong place, wrong time.
And they took that personally.
They did, in fact.
Yes. And the Dream with an 88-77 win over the Sky. In NBA Summer League action, the Grizzlies down the Bulls 87-80. MLS, for the third time in 4 games, Nashville Soccer Club comes up on the short end, falling 1-0 to Chicago. Tonight, 7 o'clock ESPN, you will have the Major League Baseball Home Run Derby. And also at 5 o'clock today on ESPN News, Grizzlies and the Cavaliers in Summer League action. And that is your rundown.
Today's top story is brought to you by our friends at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill Shopping Center in Columbia. Just recently voted, once again, best grocery store in all of Murray County. So make sure to go see Jody and the folks over there. Get your fresh hand-cut meats or your daily lunch special, meat and 3 vegetables. Today's meatloaf. So
Today's meatloaf?
get over there and grab you some meatloaf.
What's tomorrow?
I don't know. I only know that because I went over there today to get some extra footage for the new commercial. So
I think I'm going to be in town tomorrow, so I think it might be time to swing through.
there you go. That will be the time to do it. Yeah. Today's top story comes from Birmingham and the Southeastern Conference offices as they announced the general times, but also the players that we will see at SEC Media Days. And I thought there were some interesting names on here and some glaring omissions.
Did we not know these until today?
I don't think we knew the players until today.
Okay.
And my biggest takeaway here is that one team in particular is not bringing a quarterback. And
see, the list I'm looking at does not have positions on it, unfortunately. So I don't know that. But are you talking about a team that's on the first day?
I am talking about no. Who are you talking about?
I don't know that any of the guys coming with Texas A&M are quarterbacks.
Texas A&M is not bringing a quarterback. I'm not totally surprised.
Yeah, so since they probably don't know who their quarterback is.
Since they don't know who it is. I'm talking about Kentucky, who is not bringing their highly touted transfer Devin Leary.
There are those of us in this part of the country that are pleased to know that, actually.
It's a little interesting, isn't it?
It's
I wonder what.
But it's been interesting, and we talked about it at the time. Just because you are a transfer does not mean that you are birthrighted the starting quarterback position, and that may be the case in Lexington. We may have seen Kentucky starting quarterback in the Music City Bowl.
A lot of folks gave Destin Wade a lot of hate, Kentucky fans particularly, for his performance. In
Kentucky
that game.
fans going Kentucky fan.
The one football fan they have. But you really have to look at the entirety of the situation, the offensive line situation, the fact that they're playing a defense that is
pretty darn
the
good
best defense in the country last year.
And had to be for them to get to a bowl, by the way.
Right. But, there was just a lot of things to take into consideration. The fact that he had not practiced with the ones at all.
Until bowl season.
You don't have time to get – and that's why Joe Milton was so successful in the Orange Bowl, because none of the top wide receivers played. Tillman didn't play.
So he was throwing to guys he's been throwing to all year.
All the second teamers. So it worked. But so I'm curious if this is because we talked about last year with Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt brought a quarterback and ended up.
He ended up not. Well, he didn't finish the year. He was QB1 at the start of the year.
He was.
Yeah.
But maybe some teams are noticing that's not a great idea.
Yeah.
Don't bring a quarterback that may or may not play the whole year. Because the quarterbacks that are coming are pretty much guys that are going to be. Alabama's not bringing a quarterback because Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, it could be either of those guys or somebody else. KJ Jefferson's coming. He's going to be a starter all year.
Will Rogers is coming.
Jaden Daniels, Will Rogers, and I believe Spencer Rattler. I think that's all the quarterbacks that are going to be there.
I don't even see South Carolina.
Tonka Hemingway, Kai Kroger, and Spencer Rattler.
And Joe Milton.
South Carolina's bringing a punter.
South Carolina's bringing a punter?
A punter.
Matt
Cruz, he said punters are athletes. They got to catch the ball.
Yeah, but I don't know that there's ever been a punter brought to SEC football.
This may be a first. We may have to – can we get not Chuck, but who is the guy that's at South Carolina now? Chuck, is it Bloom? Charles Bloom. We may have to ask him because he would know.
He would know. If anybody would know, it would be Charles Bloom. Ole Miss isn't bringing a quarterback.
No, I'm telling you, I just think this is very intriguing that we're not.
I think it probably speaks to the state of QB1 across the SEC.
And, it's funny because we kind of took issue with a certain guest of ours last year, Wes. Who was it? Oh, from ACC, Wes.
Durham.
Mm-hmm. And
coming into last year, though.
Right. Mm-hmm. The SEC was pretty high on the quarterback list.
This year? Not so much.
He could say that. And we would agree.
Maybe he was a year ahead. Yeah.
So I mean, Auburn, I really find, I find it interesting that Auburn's bringing, a lot of tight ends, by the way. Luke Deal is a tight end. Brock Bowers, of course.
Brock Bowers is the tight end.
Jacob Warren from Tennessee is coming. So this is just an interesting group of people.
I'm a little bothered by the SEC that they did not put positions next to these guys.
They did put them in this email, official
really?
listing.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you got that or not, but
I don't know why I wouldn't have.
it's that's where I'm seeing these. I think Arkansas is bringing the right people. Auburn is interesting because it's Auburn and it's the first year of Hugh Freeze. Florida,
you would think in the first year of Hugh Freeze he would bring a quarterback.
He would want people to, and maybe a lot of these folks are saying, hey, we don't want you to know who our number one's going to be right now. They're not going to name a quarterback this early.
Now, are they saying they don't want you to know who their number one is, or are they saying they don't know who their number one is?
I think both, probably. I mean, is Robbie Ashford the number one guy at Auburn? Probably, but I don't know.
In the opener,
I think
for
sure in the first game. But I think a lot of folks learned a lesson from Vanderbilt last year.
Vanderbilt setting the tone.
Vanderbilt also learned its own lesson. Did not bring a quarterback, which.
Well, and again.
I mean, is AJ the starter? Is it going to be
Ken?
No,
did he leave?
I think he's gone. My assumption is AJ's the starter, but I don't know that. He's a freshman last year, played most of the year, ended up being pretty decent. They won, 5 ball games? So, I mean, you would think that he would be the guy, but clearly Clark Lee is.
Ken Seals.
Yeah.
And AJ Swan were the names.
Seals was number 3 last year, but he stayed.
I believe, he's still there.
And I think he may be number 2 just because.
Attrition.
Well, what was the guy that left and went to Mississippi State?
Mike Wright. Apparently, Nashville was not big enough for 2 one-time Vanderbilt quarterbacks named Mike Wright.
There you go. So. Not big enough at all. SEC Media Days is always interesting, and this is one reason. Because it appears that there may have been a memorandum sent out because everybody just about is bringing in offensive linemen. Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Missouri, all bringing offensive linemen. So there's that. And Anaya Smith will be back at SEC Media Days.
Anaya Smith will not be back.
Well,
he will be at
SEC Media Days after not being there last year.
After he was supposed to be there.
Yeah. He's back on the list. He's supposed to be there.
Let's hope he can get here.
Let's hope he can get there this time, certainly. And
he's got a week.
There you go. So a lot of interesting things here.
Somebody keep an eye on Anaya Smith this weekend.
Just put him in a room for a week. Give him a PlayStation and let him go.
Dude, hang out with us.
Yeah.
Come on over here. Come on.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, we will be there each and every day. We'll have individual team shows, I guess, is the best way to see it. They'll air live exclusively on our Twitter account at ms_sports today. So make sure to see those live on Twitter, but you can also go back and watch them as a package the very next day. So you'll see Monday's teams on Tuesday on the Main Street Media TV app and other available options, but you can see them live on our Twitter account. So make sure to give us a follow there before, but there you go. We'll take a break as we get ready to talk a little bit about Bob Huggins and the West Virginia basketball coach situation. And we'll do that with West Virginia Sports Now's Mike ASTI right here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Come back with us to the Lee Company studio after this. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. Chris Yow, Mo Patton on this fine Monday. It's Reaction Monday, where we react to all of the news from across the world of sports. And over the weekend, there was an insane development in the Bob Huggins, West Virginia basketball saga. Earlier,
Well, it didn't become a saga until this weekend, I don't really think.
yeah, well, I mean, you know, they had the first thing that happened a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then the DUI, and now, yes, now there's a third thing in the situation. Therefore, it is now, I guess, a saga. And to talk about said saga, we have with us West Virginia Sports Now's Mike ASTI at Mike ASTI11 on Twitter. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well, and yeah, I would officially say now it is a saga. It was asinine before, but it is now a saga for sure.
And it would have been fine to be asinine if it had ended there, right?
It just wasn't going to happen, though. I mean, it was surprising, but maybe not so much for those of us covering and following it, because there were Facebook posts and comments by Bob Huggins' daughter that the family was very, very upset on how this was all handled. So, yeah, who would ever have thought, guys, you would have WVU versus Bob Huggins, a legendary figure, all the good he did for the school program, basketball Hall of Famer. And they are at war with Bob Huggins now. It seems surreal, but that is where we are.
How much of a war is it, though? That's the real
So
question.
what?
How much
Yeah.
of a war can it be?
I
That's
don't
the
know
question
that
for me.
that's a good question.
Yeah.
Just for the fact that it's not like one side has a whole lot of ammunition, because
Right.
following Bob Huggins' June 17th arrest on DUI charges in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
there was a release put out. Today, I have submitted a letter to President Gordon Gee and Vice President and Director of Athletics Ren Baker,
Right.
informing them of my resignation and intention to retire as head men's basketball coach at West Virginia University, effective immediately. That was following his June 17th arrest, right? And it says at the bottom, sincerely, Bob Huggins.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's what we saw as a press release. That's what social media saw. That's what the fans saw. And that's what actually was talked about, because there also has been a press conference to announce Josh Eilert as the interim head coach, because as you guys know, doing a national coaching search for a major brand program, no matter who you are, in late June, July, it's very, very hard. So they landed on an interim after the search. They're going to try again, do another search next spring. During that press conference, obviously, most of the questions were about Bob Huggins. And Ren Baker said that he talked with Huggins. He was at peace. They cried. It was fine. And then we get this. But what Huggins camp is now arguing, they're not really, this is kind of funny. They're not disputing the resignation letter existed and that Bob said those things.
Good.
And that even there was a text message that apparently Ren Baker is saying that him and Bob exchanged texts over it, in which Bob again said he is resigning and agrees that it's a resignation because they're trying to get legal with it now. But apparently, outside of what you saw of his signature on Twitter, Bob's camp is claiming he didn't actually sign the official document. So it's not therefore legal. And despite saying it, it wasn't signed. Thus, he didn't really resign. And they're also claiming, which maybe is a little bit of the case, that while he resigned, he didn't really want to. Like, they're basically claiming he was forced out, and the narrative the WVU is saying that he voluntarily resigned because he knew the problems that he caused and he's taken responsibility. That's kind of all false. And the program basically fired him, but tried to do a nice thing by saying it was resignation, even though it wasn't a firing. It's a mess. But the crux of this is they're claiming he didn't sign the document. So if he didn't sign it, did it happen? Even though we read the letter, at the end of the day, guys, he's not going to coach WVU any longer. If there was ever any hope that he would be welcome back a year from now, because some thought, okay, after rehab, they didn't hire somebody, they're doing interim, maybe they'd welcome him back next year. That was pie in the sky for some fans that love him. That's just not happening. That was never going to happen, but it's really dead now. Like, obviously, he's not going to coach there any longer. Who knows if they're going to welcome him back to celebrate him and honor him now? Because I will tell you, they were going to name the court after him like they do with Hall of Famers, Coach K Court, all of that. It was going to happen for Bob still. I don't know now. But there's a possibility, if he really never signed the document, that maybe he'll get a settlement and get some money out of this. But this just looks really, really bad. And I wrote about this, like, if you're Bob, I don't see much of a win here outside of money. So maybe this is about money. But he's not going to coach there anymore no matter what.
Well, not only is he not going to coach there anymore, as we speak with Mike ASTI of West Virginia Sports Now here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Not only is he not going to coach there, Mike, but West Virginia graduate, Morgantown native, all that other stuff, all the goodwill that goes along with Local Boy Does Good is pretty much burned, isn't it?
Well, there's a lot of fans that are going to ride with Huggins forever. That we've seen this from the anti-gay slur to the DUI to now. There are a lot of fans in our comments on Twitter and my replies that Bob's a victim. They're going to ride with him forever. It's kind of what the Huggins camp is selling. But I will say, guys, after the anti-gay slur, a lot of that was okay. It wasn't good. but Bob's done so much good. Let's kind of give him a mulligan. Let's forget about it. And the university didn't fire him then. Like, I would have got fired. You would have got fired. Everyone else would have got fired. He stayed the course, got a kind of a stay of execution for a year or so. Then you get to the DUI. It's like, okay, we got to sever ties now. We're going to do the resignation thing, but we got to move on. This is getting really, really bad now. Some people still then said, okay, drinking problem, addiction, maybe go to rehab. WVU maybe covered it up for many years, like everyone kind of knew Bob liked to drink, and now it got worse. But now that you get this, we have noticed there are less and less people in Bob Huggins' camp in terms of fans. So I think now you're in a situation, perception-wise, he is a Hall of Fame coach. He took the program to a Final Four. They hadn't been there since Jerry West before that. He's won a lot of games, 900-plus wins. He left actually as the active wins leader. He's in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, and he never did it at a blue blood. He did it at Cincinnati. WVU is his major schools and a couple others. No blue bloods, no 5 stars, and tons of success. 9 Sweet 16s, 4 Elite Eights, the 2 Final Fours. We get it all. That's all there. Even cancer research that he brought Charles Barkley there, does a fish fry every year. But this is now a stain too. And there are a lot of West Virginia fans that now are saying, hey, now you're trying to hurt the program. Like a few $1 million that you already are very, very rich, even if you get on a settlement, is that worth hurting the program that you claim to love so much and the state? His perception is taking a hit now because of this legal battle. If it didn't prior, and yeah, this does hurt his legacy. It doesn't mean he's not a Hall of Fame coach, but this sucks. This is unfortunate to have it end this way. And there are more fans than even a month ago that are now West Virginia fans saying, hey, Bob, what are you doing? We don't like this. And why do you have to do this to us? They feel like he's almost doing this to them.
And I feel like that's a valid question. Why is he doing this?
Yeah. What's the difference between retirement
and resignation
and getting fired? Because they have to fire him if he didn't resign.
And they're going to fire him if he doesn't.
That's the thing. Like, if he somehow would win the court battle and legally they would make this where the resignation was null and void, I'm very, very confident Ren Baker, Gordon Gee,
within the hour.
Yeah, they would say, okay, you're back in, and now you're fired with cause.
Don't bring a dang thing back to the office.
Yeah, right. Like it's like the Seinfeld episode where George just shows up after quitting. Like, didn't you quit? Like, we thought you quit. Like, no, that's not going to work this time. No, Bob absolutely is not going to coach there again. And they have cause. He dropped an anti-gay slur on the radio. He then got a DUI in a company car, in which, I don't know if you know the geography there for all your listeners in the South. Morgantown and Pittsburgh are close, but you're still looking at 70 miles on interstate. He drove from Morgantown to Pittsburgh on the weekend Taylor Swift was there. It's amazing he didn't kill somebody. He thought he was in Columbus, Ohio recruiting, which is several hours away to the other side. It was really, really bad. They had plenty of cause. Any other university employee would have been fired for cause. Because he's a legend who did so much, they did the resignation narrative. He doesn't want that. He wants to fight that. He wants to make it worse. That's not good enough for him. So, yes, if they have to, they would fire for cause. But just a couple weeks ago, Ren Baker was saying, we're going to honor him. We're going to treat him like a Hall of Famer, despite how bad this ended. And now, even if he's going to get some money out of it, it does feel like that's all gone. They can't do that now. Certainly not for a while. So, like, at the end of the day, I don't know if this is worth it for Bob unless he's really, really mad at WVU and really believes he somehow is the victim of this.
It makes no sense. This is the most senseless thing that maybe I've ever seen a collegiate coach do, especially at this level.
Certainly in a while. I mean, there's nothing that just jumps out to me to rival this.
And
they're willing to let you just ride off into the sunset. Say that you chose to do that.
Right.
But no.
Not good enough. No, not good enough. And yeah, like Rick Pitino, a recent example. We've seen coaches be Hall of Famers, do a lot for a school, and leave in controversy and scandal. And maybe they didn't really want to leave, but they're allowed to kind of resign or go away nicely. They don't then fight the school. Like Rick Pitino moved on. He's like, okay, I'll sit out a year. I'll go to Iona. Now I'm at St. John's. If Bob just played this cool, maybe he could coach again in another school in a year or so. But if you're in litigation with WVU. And who knows how long this is going to go. And I know the program is not just going to lay down. Like, this could get bad for him. Obviously, he can, hire a major defense attorney. If he didn't sign the thing, I will say this too, guys. If he did not sign the document, and Ren Baker, who I like as AD, he's had to deal with a lot in his first few months as AD. I think he's a great young athletic director in the country. And then even Gordon Gee, too, is the president. If they went out there in a press conference, especially Ren Baker, and they didn't have that document signed and they didn't see his signature on it prior to the press conference, that's a dereliction of their own duty, too. They almost deserve to give some money to Bob. Like, that's just ridiculous also. This didn't have to – you can't have a handshake agreement, clearly, with the way this is going now. So they got to get everything on paper from now on and take some screenshots of texts because but yeah, you don't need to do this. This doesn't in any way help Bob Huggins' legacy at all.
I can see them actually not getting a signature on it, though, Mike, just because you think everybody's in agreement on this. Let's just get this over with and move forward. And you might not be thinking, I mean, I guess you have to think about the legalities of it to your point, but realistically, you just felt like this is the best thing for all parties. Let's just get this over with. We're all on the same page. Let's move forward.
If we were in Canada, the thumbs up emoji would have been good enough. A ruling just came down over the weekend in Canada that a contract was completely signed with the thumbs up emoji.
Are you being serious?
I swear. This is not a lot. I swear to you.
That's awesome. Then they do need to get a thumbs up emoji then. Absolutely.
So I'm just saying, if Bob sent one and this was in Canada, this would be a non-issue. But apparently, it's still an issue. This
doesn't work in West Virginia or Pennsylvania.
This is absolutely unacceptable. And here's the thing, Bob Huggins didn't leave Cincinnati on good terms. Obviously, he's now left West Virginia on poor terms. What could have been a redemption story the first time these two teams played one another as conference opponents in the upcoming year would have been a fantastic storyline. Now,
a fantastic opportunity to recognize him at that point as well.
Sure. Cincinnati could have, because Bob Huggins took Cincinnati to a Final Four in 1992, put that program on the map. They hadn't been there since Oscar Robinson. And Cincinnati, I know they welcomed him back at a football game a couple years ago, but he left there in scandal. They didn't like him at all. It took them a long time until the Basketball Hall of Fame a couple years ago to welcome him back and even celebrate the Final Four at all. And again, that was at a football game. Yeah, that would have been kind of nice if the Cincinnati fans could have celebrated Bob Huggins for what he did for them, repaired that legacy, and kind of had both fan bases that he won a lot of games with kind of just for 2 seconds get away from the basketball game and appreciate a Hall of Famer they both share. But who knows if West Virginia is going to get where Cincinnati is, because when he was inducted, Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, that's a big deal. It took Cincinnati like an hour and a half on Twitter to even say anything. They didn't want to recognize it. They don't like Bob Huggins there. So to have that now at two schools, that's your two schools. I mean, that could be the situation he has to deal with in the future. There are always going to be fans that ride with him, but the university itself, they might do the classy thing every now and then. But going as far as court naming and putting a statue there next to Jerry West, I can't see all of that if he's going to do this now, because as you also know, they lost a lot of players. Emoji. Yeah, right. That's a thumbs down and maybe one of those angry faces and kind of like a wink in like a weird way. That's just not going to happen. And maybe even one of those like squinting, like you must be kidding me, Bob kind of emojis too. Because you have a lot of players transferring out of the program, obviously, because they committed to WVU, one of the top transfer class in the country Bob had, because they just made the tournament. It's Bob Huggins. There is a lot of NIL money at West Virginia. It's a major conference. There's a lot of history there. They transferred in, and then a lot of them transferred out. They still have some, but they lost a lot of players. They just got a commit from Florida State actually the other day. But this is affecting their ability to add transfers, their ability to get a new coach full-time in the spring, what the NIL bank and the donors are going to do in the future. This affects all of that. It looks really bad. And if I'm a coach now outside the program coming in the spring when they interview me, I will ask, hey, is Bob done fighting you? Like, are you done with this Bob drama? Because that's a problem. There are rumors that he was, I'm not saying I know this to be true, but there were some speculation among media circles and certainly fans that Bob was even trying to work against the program after all of this and tell some of the transfers that he recruited to come into the program, hey, I'm not there anymore, you should leave, even though they had previously said they would stay with an interim, and they ended up leaving. So I don't know if Bob really did that, but just like, why, Bob? It's your fault. You did all this to yourself. They're still going to let you be celebrated, and now you're hurting the school and the state, and he's an alum. It's not even like he's an alum, unlike Cincinnati, and he's doing this to WVU now. So it just feels unnecessary, and we're never going to know the real behind the closed doors meetings, obviously, between him and Ren Baker. So maybe there was something said that he really feels insulted by. He still did a lot of good for the program. But I think you got to understand, when you drop an anti-gay slur on the radio in this society, which obviously is unacceptable, and then you get a DUI in a company car and you're blowing a 0.2 plus, and you have to understand that has to be the end of the line, especially when you're 69 years old.
Mike ASTI of West Virginia Sports Now joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. And Mike, yesterday when we were trying to come up with our list of guests for the week, I reached out to Nebias Wilborn, former Penn State writer, and said, hey, man, you got any folks up that way that could talk about Huggins? And he immediately put me on you. And
awesome.
So he thinks very highly of you, and we think very highly of him. So you're kind of guilty by association, man. But
He's a great guy.
We appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Definitely happy to jump on, talk West Virginia or whatever else, football, basketball, or whatever else here in the future. Maybe we'll be able to talk some sports. That's not about some drama in the future. But yeah, he's a great guy. I've worked with him before. He's also covered Auburn down there. So yeah, I appreciate the compliments from him. The guilty by association with you guys, which I now take as a compliment.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate the time. Your commercials made me want some ribs. So maybe do that for lunch or something here coming up.
There you go. Mike, thanks again. We'll talk to you very soon.
Absolutely, guys. Have a great day.
Mike ASTI of West Virginia Sports Now. We'll take a break. When we come back, baseball chatter. Plenty of baseball to talk about, because we're going to get a little bit more into that Ellie De La Cruz situation, because, boy, my goodness.
We got some breaking news as well.
We have breaking news coming up on the other side of the break. So stick around here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll be back to the Lee Company studio after this.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
Better than drinking an ice-cold beverage.
Tired of hanging lights every year? We get it. That's why Southern Nights is here to help. We install programmable lighting on your home or business so you can enjoy beautiful, customizable lighting all year round. No more ladders, tangled lights, or cold nights outside. We do the work, you do the celebrating. Call Southern Nights today and take the hassle out of holiday lighting forever. For a free quote, give us a call at 931-241-3074 or visit our Facebook page at Southern Nights.
There is nothing better than drinking an ice-cold beverage while taking in a Nashville Sounds baseball game. Hi, I'm Stephanie Miller with Mornings on Main Street. The Nashville Sounds and Main Street Media Television have teamed up to promote Sunday Family Fun Day here at First Horizon Park, each Sunday home game. Just go to your favorite Main Street Media website and click on Sounds Main Street Media Day banner to register to win free tickets. And then we'll see you here at the ballpark.
10th, 1947, host Boston overcame a depleted umpiring crew that included Cincinnati pitcher Bucky Walters to down the Reds 6-4. Half of home plate umpire Jocko Conlon's crew failed to show up for the game, which was rescheduled as the first of a doubleheader following a May 1st rainout. Dick Culler worked third base with Walters covering first, apparently with little to no incident. That was this day in Braves history.
Well, at least there was no incident.
Yeah. I mean, the game, of course, I imagine 16 Boston Braves hits probably helped.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have thrown anywhere near the strike zone and just hoped.
Well, the home plate umpire was Conlon, who was
Right.
actually supposed to be there, but Walters was working first base, ringing up his guys.
It's gotta be tough in the locker room.
Yeah. How did I get so lucky? Said Bucky.
Yeah, that's tough right there.
Yeah.
Boston Braves win. Always a good day.
Mhm.
You said we had breaking news. Let's go to it.
We do have breaking news.
Do
Jaden,
we need to get Brady on for this?
I'm surprised Brady hadn't just shown up, actually, because Middle Tennessee State right-hander and former Columbia Central standout Jaden Ham was drafted in round 5 of the Major League Baseball draft earlier today by the Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers of the combined no-hitter on Saturday. So maybe soon Jaden can get up there and throw one of his own. We'll see. But the number 218th overall pick in the draft. Draft started with 2 rounds last night, picked up with round 3.
The what pick? The what pick?
218th overall.
Detroit Tigers player personnel says 143 overall. I think he was the 218th ranked prospect.
That could very well be. I may have misread.
And I'm just
this as I'm
the only reason
trying to do the show, and this
somebody
at the same time.
is reading.
I would be willing to trust whoever Detroit
now
said.
Here's the thing. Not only did they take Jaden Ham, but with the 107th pick, they took Carson Rucker out of Good Pasture.
Yeah, it's 143, not 218.
Okay.
That was his rank.
Gotcha. Okay.
There we go. Thank you. Good catch. Before I actually get it up on the website, mainstreetmurray.com.
And it will be there very quickly. So you guys watch out. But yeah, Carson Rucker and Jaden Ham both going north to Detroit.
Not so fast, my friend. I mean, you would think at round 5, Carson Rucker would go, but he is a Tennessee signee. So
he is a Tennessee signee. Yeah. That's
interesting.
Especially considering, the situation with Maui Ahuna. You assume he's going to go wherever.
Yeah.
Whoever picked him, you assume he's going to go to the next level.
It will certainly be worth watching if you are a fan of the Orange.
But both picked by Detroit there. So how about that? That's solid. And, the good thing about going to Detroit is you might end up a Brave. It's almost like going to Oakland.
Well, I think that was kind of what he was hoping for, actually, but it didn't quite play out that way. And, at this point, just being a professional baseball player or having the opportunity. And, talked to him a couple of weeks ago for an article, and felt like that there wasn't much of a scenario that would see him returning to MTSU for his senior year. I mean, that's certainly doable, but I guess going 143rd, that's not likely to happen. So,
yeah, you'll take that.
Absolutely.
And speaking of young phenoms, let's talk a little bit about Ellie De La Cruz and just the ineptitude of the Milwaukee Brewers in that situation.
Goodness gracious.
And
a lot of people fell asleep at the wheel during that sequence, and that's the one guy that you can't
you got to keep
do that with. Yeah.
Took second base on a typical steal. Took third base because they were in a semi-shift and nobody was covering the base, which is easy to do.
And then literally caught everybody with their heads down.
And what I thought was interesting about this, most interesting about this, is that they obviously weren't holding him on.
No.
So if you're throwing the ball to the pitcher from first base, you have to look in the general vicinity of third base. Did the City Connects get lost in the shadows?
I don't
like
know.
What happened with? I guess it was Tellez. Had to be Tellez, right? Playing first base for the.
I'm not sure.
Most likely.
Yeah, I'm not sure who was on first at that point, but
what?
Right.
What's on second? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
who's on first? But nonetheless, De La Cruz, not only with the athletic ability of some of the best athletes in the history of the game, but clearly the IQ pretty high here.
And that's what the Cincinnati coaching staff has really said about him since he came up from Louisville about a month or so ago, that it's not just his physical attributes, but his baseball IQ is off the charts.
Yeah.
And I think that has to be the case for a coaching staff to allow a guy to just play wide open like that and play with reckless abandon on the base paths like that and give him the green light to go, when he wants to go. And for someone that young, my hat is off to David Bell and the coaching staff at Cincinnati for allowing that.
Yeah, when you have someone who can change a game that way, you have to allow them to do.
You got to let him. And here's the thing: he's going to screw up at some point.
Sure, you got to let him screw up too.
You got to let him screw up because
Acuna,
with his 5 tools, he's going to make a lot more plays than he messes up.
Yeah, Acuna had the out at third base in that Rays game, but you still want him to do that.
Make them make plays.
Make them make a play. And trying to get Elly De La Cruz out, making with the added, I've got to make a play. Oh, and on top of that, I've got to get this guy who can run, probably a 4.2, 4.3. I don't know that I can do that, especially when he's already halfway down the line. So, and I hesitate to put it all on Contreras but I certainly think Contreras bears some blame here by not being the leader on the field, not paying attention to the runner at third base, and
Yeah.
Great job though. Just heads up by the timing of going when Tellez made the throw, making them catch it, take the ball out, throw it home. It wasn't even close. So
it's fun to watch, and he's going to be fun to watch.
All-star? It would be hard to say no. I know it's a small sample size.
It's a small sample size. It's a super small sample size.
But he's already hit for a cycle. We saw that.
Yeah, we
live
did.
and in person.
Yeah.
This guy's doing things that haven't been done since the 80s.
He hit for the cycle in his 15th major league game.
That's insanity. I just want y'all to realize that.
15th major league game.
That is nutso. So I don't know. Obviously, again, small sample size, but he certainly has proven that he is one of the best players in the game right now. At this very moment, he is one of the best players in the game. 8 Atlanta Braves are making their way to Seattle, or probably made their way to Seattle at this point. Spencer Strider and Bryce Elder will not participate in the All-Star game, but will be honored as All-Stars.
Sure. And understandably so. Bryce Elder made the start yesterday, and that's about all I'm going to say about that.
Didn't have a great day.
Spencer Strider made the start the day before and struck out, 10,
pitches,
11?
Had 11 strikeouts.
So,
and 6 and a third.
I believe so. maybe 6 2/3.
I think it was 1, but I'm not sure.
But yeah, pitched into the 7th.
Pitched into the 7th, which is something that we don't get a lot of, especially from Spencer Strider, who at one time was pitching very stressful.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of stressful innings until the 4th inning where he started to kind of mow hitters down, which is unusual in the second time through the lineup because it was the exact opposite for the Braves.
I thought it was funny, though, his start, because it went single, ground ball to second for a force, double, and then he struck out 7 straight. It's like, okay, they've hit the ball enough.
Well, and that's what he's been doing. He's been seeing what he can get away with his changeup and taking a little bit off his fastball. When he realizes that he can't get away with 96, he goes to 98, 99, and they can't hit it. And I think that's what makes Spencer Strider so effective to me, is that he has the ability to
amp it up.
Well, to one, be effective at a lower level.
Mm-hmm.
And then if he's not, he's still got 98 in his back pocket, 99. And that's nice to have. And he's been using that changeup beautifully over the last couple of starts. And I think that is going to be a huge, huge benefit going into obviously that third pitch going into the later parts of the season. And his slider is starting to become as nasty as it gets in the game. So, you know, he's not Randy Johnson, but he does pitch an awful lot like it.
Yeah. And, you know, with what he's doing, and, you know, it's not always pretty with Charlie Morton, but it is effective. And I'm intrigued by, you know, what this rotation is going to look like coming out of the All-Star break and when Bryce Elder does get another shot, because I think yesterday is going to stick in his craw for a while. You know, Max Fried threw 1 1/3 for Gwinnett yesterday in a rehab.
35 pitches. And that was the limit because they took him out mid-batting.
Yeah, with a 2-2 count.
Yeah.
Yeah, the limit is the limit. 35 and not one more.
So,
I mean, I don't know where they come up with that number, but wherever they came up with it,
they stuck
that was
to it.
Yeah.
However, they got it. That was it.
Yeah.
But and if that's what it takes to get Max back in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, I'm for it. I'm fine.
Sure.
If it takes 35 pitches this weekend, 35, you know, maybe 50 pitches the next week, and then 75, and then you finally get him in, you know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. I'll take him in August. I'll take him August, September, early October. You're going to have him, and it's fine. I'll take it. Whatever it takes to get him back. If it's got to be slow, it's got to be slow. Offense was fantastic over the weekend as well. At parts, Sean Murphy was particularly exciting with a couple of home runs, one no-doubter.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah.
That was, I mean, off the bat, obviously not as exciting because it wasn't the World Series, but it reminded me of the Soler shot just because it was so powerful.
Well, the difference, though, was Soler's was kind of towering. Murphy's was a laser.
Yeah, it got out so fast.
Yeah.
They said 406, and I was like, yeah, but if there hadn't been anything
in front of it, yeah.
Who knows?
406 is where it stopped.
Because it was still going fast.
Yeah. So.
Oh man, yeah. I thought that was a great weekend for Sean Murphy. And the Braves, did they hit a home run yesterday? So the streak continued?
Well, so Sean Murphy got the day off yesterday, day game after a night game, replaced by Travis d'Arnaud, who extended the streak with a home run. Yes.
Promptly went yard.
Exactly.
I was at the Sounds game, so I did not get a chance to see it, and thank goodness I was, because I would have been frustrated to have had to watch that.
Why?
I mean, because I would have just felt bad for Bryce Elder.
Felt bad for Bryce Elder, but
7 earned runs, just not a great way to go into the All-Star break.
It wasn't a great way for Bryce to go into the All-Star break at all. But
and it's like, how long I gotta wait to get the ball back? Give me the ball back.
Tampa Bay is the AL East leader.
They are.
They are a pretty good team. In fact, they have the second most wins in Major League Baseball behind the Braves. So I didn't feel bad about it. I mean, you just felt like, or I felt like, at some point Tampa Bay was going to be Tampa Bay during this series. They weren't going to roll over. And so they got it all together yesterday. Braves got the series.
I'll be curious to see how the Braves match up with the Chicago White Sox coming out of the break, because you got the Diamondbacks after the White Sox. So do you want to save pitching, or do you just stay on the day rotation? That's the question. Do you throw Smith, Shawver, and Soroka against the White Sox and save Elder and Strider for the Diamondbacks?
I was almost, or I'm still, I guess, a little surprised that they didn't send Soroka back down to Gwinnett just to try to keep him.
Well, they're off too until Friday.
That's good.
So
that's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do? I think you'll end up seeing at least Soroka, but
I think you will see Soroka again. And if you know, you might not have noticed because you weren't there. Kobe Allard threw in relief yesterday.
And
so I don't know what that means.
That's a good question. I don't know what that means either. What I do know is that we need to take a break because David Ubben is standing by, and we will talk to him on the other side of the break as we are talking a little Northwestern football and what comes along in that situation. Mm-hmm. So stick with us on Main Street Sports Day, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint, back to the Lee Company studio right after this. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Welcome back to Today's Better Health. I'm Colleen Barton, and I'm here with Dr. Gil Kentoff and Dr. Wendy Toohey, and we're talking about the latest treatments in back and neck pain.
Many people, Colleen, come to see us with neck and back pain, and they develop tingling and numbness down the arm or lower back pain that develops into sciatica shooting down their leg. And for these patients, we have an advanced treatment technology, non-surgical decompression therapy, that we really introduced to this area. It separates the vertebrae and creates a suction to allow fluids and nutrients back in to heal the disc naturally, relieving pressure on the nerve and on the joint. It's an amazing treatment.
We've been helping patients like this for the last 30 years, helping them get back to work, get back to their family, get back to the life they want to live.
I mean, it really is amazing. Technology helping us to live pain-free and better lives. Right. And I bet you have a special offer.
The first 25 callers will receive an examination, x-rays, review of our findings, and their first treatment, all for $39.
Call 615-551-3897 today to receive this special offer.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yow and Mo Patton here on this Reaction Monday, reacting to all the news in the world of sports from over the weekend and big news. We talked a little bit on Friday, but even more information came out over the weekend about the Northwestern hazing situation. And so we had hoped to find someone with a little knowledge on the situation, and I believe we did.
Oh, without question.
And that is why we have the Athletics' David UBBEN joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. David, what's going on, man?
Not much, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, real quick before we get into this, do you think if Rate My Skype background would rate you that you would get a 10? I think you would get a 10.
I like to think so. We bought a new house last year, 2 weeks before our daughter was born. I don't recommend that, by the way. Terrible idea. Terrible idea.
Hey, you're all getting broke in together, right?
Yeah, exactly. But so we had the specific room for my office. So I was able to design how the whole thing works. And we have some soft light coming in from the right so that I don't get washed out. We don't get weird shadows that often. And then, you know, because when we had it in the old house, like the office was set up to work, not to have like, because it was pre-COVID. I think we bought that house in 2018, I want to say. So it's just like a space. You know, I had my desk against the wall. It was terrible on TV or pods. And like the world has changed now, and here we are. So
I think you'd get a 10 out of 10.
I'm glad you understand all of that, how lighting works and all that good stuff, because I'm clueless. So
can't be backlit, can't be washed out. So the window coming in from the side is perfect.
No, whatever you get is whatever you get with me. But you know, David, this Northwestern situation, for lack of a better phrase, is a mess. And
it just got messier.
And as these things typically evolve, the more you find out, the worse it gets. Is Pat Fitzgerald going to survive this?
Well, I'll say this. Ultimately, he has a lot of people wearing purple that do not want to see him lose that job. And that is a very powerful thing. Let's not forget, you're talking about a guy who's gone 1-8 in Big 12 play the last 3 of the last 4 years. So the fact that you're still there, you're not technically on the hot seat. Now you have this. At the end of the day, Northwestern loves Pat Fitzgerald. The leadership loves him. He is, you know, a legend there, maybe the most famous alum, certainly the most famous member of the football program as a player and now as a coach. So that's sort of the situation that you're there with. Now, the way college athletics works, if they want to get rid of you, they're going to get rid of you. If they don't want to get rid of you, they're going to find a lot of reasons to not get rid of you. And right now, Pat Fitzgerald is living in that zone where there's not a lot of people that want to get rid of him. The question now is, how much do they care about public perception, which is obviously turning quickly? You know, if the hazing stuff wasn't enough, now you have one named player, 2 other unnamed players talking about racism within the program, how it's hard to be yourself in the program. Like, that's a problem. And so how many more things are going to come out? And I think ultimately Northwestern did this to itself, because when you don't release details, you release this sort of executive summary that's very vague. It's like, yeah, you know, hazing happened, but we don't know who did it, and we don't know if he knew about it or not. And well, guess what happens? The people who are victimized by that obviously feel the need to speak out, and now you're in the situation that you're in now. So, again, this is created by a situation where the school doesn't want to get rid of him. So will he survive? I mean, at this point, I would say the betting odds are shifting toward no. But, coaches have done worse and kept their jobs. I'll say that.
David, this is probably unrelated, but is now related. Just a few minutes ago, a breaking story involving Jim Foster, baseball coach at Northwestern, has come out from 670 The Score, saying that baseball head coach Jim Foster created an unwelcome environment for players, spurring transfers. And so they are investigating Foster's behavior. And in the investigation, they did not speak to any of the players. So it sounds like administration may be on a hotter seat than anyone in Chicago right now.
I mean, I think it's a big part of it. Ultimately, you see this a lot with these quote-unquote investigations. They find what they want to find. That's why you're hired. And they leave you not open to litigation. We saw this at Tennessee, right? What do you want to find? Well,
everything.
They want to find everything. Please help us get out of this $13 million buyout. We think our coach is not good. We don't want to pay this money. Please, here's all our books. Here's everything. We're going to throw ourselves at the mercy of the NCAA to save $13 million. Well, at the time, it seemed like not a great strategy. One Orange Bowl victory and a win over Alabama later, I guess it worked out for you, and they still haven't cut any money to Jeremy Pruitt. So, that's sure what these investigations are. Well, the most cynical view, naturally, from the Northwestern situation is that, somebody calls you in this whistleblower calls you up in November, says, hey, this stuff happened. Well, like I said before, you don't want to get rid of the coach. You love what he represents for your university, the image that he portrays for your university. And you say, okay, well, we're not that interested in finding out the truth or reality or sussing this out, but we're going to look into it. And then we're going to figure out what we're going to do. And then we're going to release this very vague statement. I mean, that's the thing, is you use the word hazing. Hazing is a huge umbrella of terms, right? Like, I think everybody, if they've played sports or gone to school on some level, has experienced some level of it. I've never experienced anything quite like this. This is on the level of, like, some of the more dehumanizing things you've ever heard, things that can't be happening in a college football program. And so, at the end of the day, yeah, I think the university administration is going to be under the microscope, because these things are real. You have real people who feel like they've been wronged here, and it seems like you want to act like you're taking them seriously while also keeping your coach and also keeping their reputation for coach, and those two things cannot happen.
Yeah, I think in this situation they're certainly not mutually exclusive at this point. I mean, they're tied together. And so Northwestern has to find a way out of this that can appease the largest group of people. But who are they more loyal to? The folks who are the boosters, who clearly are in Pat Fitzgerald's, favor, or are they going to be, for the players? And if they're not for the players, how does that affect recruiting going forward? It's not like Northwestern's easy to recruit to in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see when they make the decision, ultimately. I mean, I think it's very clear at this point they don't want to make a move. The only question is, at what point do you no longer have a choice? And it feels like we're sort of dripping to that level. And so, we'll see. I think the decision will tell you what you need to know there. Obviously a 2-week suspension during the most dry. I mean, most coaches are on vacation. Like, I've texted a few guys, or they're texting me pictures from the beach. Like, if there's a time to breathe in college coaching, it's the 2 weeks before media days, right? Nobody's doing anything. And so for him to miss these 2 weeks, he might have missed these 2 weeks anyway on a safari somewhere or something like that. So to hear the details of what this hazing included, and to hear that they suspended him 2 weeks, not 2 games during the season, which would be actually a relatively serious punishment, certainly more serious than the one they had now, but 2 weeks during the most driest period of the year is a joke. So, again, I think Northwestern wants to act like we did the 6-month investigation. We took these allegations seriously. but we also want to keep our coach and not damage his reputation and hurt his recruiting. You cannot do those two things. You got to pick one. And I think we're going to see their choice here shortly.
Excuse me. David Ubben of The Athletic joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Excuse me. Should they have to make a coaching change, or should they find themselves making that decision, I guess?
Well,
I mean, how familiar do you find yourself with that staff to say who they might go to? Because there's got to be an interim guy, right, at this point?
I haven't spent a ton of time around Northwestern, but I do, I don't particularly care about what the punishment is or is not. But what the answer is what do you want to be? Do you want to be a program that says, no, this stuff is, maybe we don't love it, but it's not enough to say we don't want a guy who sort of, wants to, you can't say they're necessarily condoning it, but I think it's a height of naivete to suggest that he didn't know this was happening. I think they would say, oh, the players handle that. We don't involve ourselves in that. You knew some stuff was happening. You might not know everything, but you certainly knew a lot. So if you want to act like that and you say, okay, that's not who we are, okay, then that's what your program is. But I think Northwestern doesn't really view itself like that. I think Northwestern views itself as a place where, values and education and development and all these things, they're not a win at all costs place. Okay. That's just not that's not how they've operated for a long time. And if you don't want to be viewed as that, then I think ultimately you do have to make a change. But if you do keep him, again, it would this conversation, I would understand it a little more if he's coming off of, consecutive 10-win seasons. But it's like, what are you even keeping here? You're keeping like this idea of what you think you want to be in Northwestern. That hasn't even really been a culture, to talk about culture in college football that has won much for you. So, the whole thing is odd to me. I get the attachment, and I get that he's done great things in the past, but you're really excusing a lot to go 1-8 in Big 12 play 3 of the last 4 years.
I don't disagree with that at all. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with they're not win at all cost. But, Mo, you've said this 100 times. What happens when you have to fire your legend?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where Northwestern finds themselves. A former player worked
not
up
just a former player, but help lead
the former player.
The former player. There you go. Worked his way up through the coaching ranks, is one of the longest tenured head coaches in the country. And
I mean, this would be like if Peyton Manning was Tennessee's head coach, basically.
Yeah,
and did this.
So I can't. Going back to your question, Mo, about who do you go interim? How do you find someone in the staff who is not liable or as liable as Pat Fitzgerald?
Well, that's sort of a complicated question. I think at the end of the day, what you can say is, well, here's the interim. We're going to lock all this up. Because I remember they dealt with this at Baylor, where they brought in Jim Grove to kind of be the feature, the figurehead, and kept most of the staff. Now, the staff legitimately just stopped recruiting. So, they hadn't done any recruiting in, 9 months when the new staff got in there under Matt Rule. So, there are some issues if you decide to go that route. But you can basically say, hey, we're not going to clean out every coach because we don't want to just punt on this season and forego all this hard work that the players have done. But we're putting in all this stuff to make sure all this stuff stops. And maybe another coach or two gets fired if you find out that they were more explicitly involved. But you can say, hey, we're going to go interim for a year, and then we're going to be searching for a coach for a year, and that's sort of what it is. Because at the end of the day, now you can say whatever you want to say about that strategy, but if you do clean house in, July, and you say, okay, we're going to fire every coach, then you really are punishing the kids that are working. Now, granted, the flip side of that is if there's hazing going on, there's a lot of kids who probably participated or condoned of this also. So if you want to do that and say, we're fine with the kids paying a price for this too, because these are the kids that were, participating in some of this. I can't necessarily disagree with that either, but not everyone. So I at the end of the day, this is still a business. So for them to just punt the whole season, I don't think that you're going to see that. I'd be very surprised if you saw
David Owen of The Athletic joining us here on Main Street Sports today. David, as always,
Hang on.
you are fantastic.
Hang on.
Before we let you go.
Do we know when Big Ten Media Days are?
They are next week, I think. I believe. I am not going to any media days this year, so I haven't paid attention to when all that stuff is going down.
Congratulations to you,
Thank
but I
you.
mean that's
I'm very excited. I'm not
The
doing
26th
that.
and 27th.
You almost have to feel like Northwestern wants to have this dealt with one way or the other before
Well, they've got
that.
2 weeks.
Do you
It's
not?
the 26th and 27th.
I mean, I think you're going to have this dealt with in the next 3 days, quite frankly.
Yeah.
You've done a 6-month investigation. You know what happened. The only question is,
what are you going to do?
What do you want to release to the public, and how honest do you want to be about what's actually in that report with yourself and with the university and with the public at large? We don't know the answer to those questions, but there's nothing else to do here. You know what happened. You did 6 months investigating. The kid who has gone public with ESPN, with the Daily Northwestern, you've spoken to him. The investigator spoke with him. I'm sure he shared with them all the things he shared with the media, anonymously. He talked to the president yesterday. You know what happened. There's nothing else to do here. You just got to make a decision.
Yeah, this is not going to go away until a decision is made one way or the other.
Right.
So we'll look forward to July 26th and 27th, where he's tucked between Mel Tucker and James Franklin.
Or where someone is tucked between them.
Yeah, we need to see what the betting odds are for Pat Fitzgerald to be wearing a Northwestern polo at Big Ten Media Days. I would take the no on that one, but we'll see.
Absolutely. David, again, as always, we appreciate it. Hey, we won't see you in Nashville this week, but enjoy sitting on the couch and paying attention to all the things going on. So
yeah, it's for our purposes, I don't know how productive media days are these days. They've kind of let it get out of hand, and it's to do anything meaningful, especially for the kind of stuff that we want to do. I'm not shedding a tear for missing media days. So I missed it last year because I had a baby and I was on leave. I don't have as good of an excuse this year, but we'll still be around. I'll be around plenty this fall. So thank you.
Well, we'll miss you. How's that? So, yeah.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right, man. Thanks.
Man.
So it's easy.
Yep. We appreciate it. All right, that's David Oven here on Main Street Sports today. Before we get out of here, got a couple of minutes left, rapid fire reaction. But before we get to that, Mo, Pat Fitzgerald's official title at
his position is endowed, right? Okay.
The Dan and Susan Jones family head football coach.
Wonder what Dan and Susan Jones are thinking
I think
about
that
now.
is the question.
That there's your article.
Is the question.
Yeah.
What do Dan and Susan Jones think? All right. Rapid fire reactions. Here we go. We'll start with Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz, 1-2.
1-2. I'm pretty sure that's never happened before.
You know, I asked you that.
I think the closest was UCLA's Garrett Cole and Trevor Bauer going 1-3 the year that they came out. So that's again, as I tweeted last night, I was shocked that the Pirates actually took
Yeah, I think we're back now.
I think we're back. Okay. Justin, are we back? We're not good.
Y'all are here. Hold on one second. Got you.
Just
Okay, cool. Just making sure. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but we got it figured out. So you were saying?
I think a lot of people expected the Pirates to try to go on the cheap and take the outfielder, the high school outfielder, I think Max Clark, who is actually a Vanderbilt commit, and try to save a couple of bucks. So again, kudos to Pittsburgh for taking the best player available, who was LSU pitcher Paul Skeens.
Okay, but and I know that things have gone a little crazy in the NL Central, but at one time they were leading that division and are still 41-49. It's not like they're, sitting there with nothing to look forward to at 25-67 like the Oakland Athletics. I mean, they're 41-49. This is a team that in the next couple of years could potentially be, a really good team.
Particularly in that division.
You've got a chance to do something, do it. And I'm like you said, glad to see Pittsburgh make that call.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Other Major League Baseball, Braves taking a bunch of right-handed pitchers, by the way.
What else is new?
Yeah. I mean, just Hurston Waldrop out of Florida.
At 24.
They take Hackenberg and Kuehler in the second round. I'm not really surprised. Again, 3 right-handed pitchers right in the middle of it. So, surprise, surprise, if you're a Braves fan.
Hey, let me drop this in here real quick.
Sure, what you got?
Nothing earth-shattering, but the Gulf South Conference Board of Directors and Commissioner Matt Wilson agreed to a 3-year contract extension through June 2026. It was announced earlier today by the Gulf South Conference. Gulf South is a Division II conference based out of Birmingham, and Matt Wilson is a Columbia Central graduate and friend of the show, and so we like to hear that he's going to get paid for another 3 years. So congrats to Matt.
He's got a job, so he's not looking if you're
absolutely.
Moving on to the NBA, Cane Ridge with a pretty exciting situation over the weekend in summer league play.
Yeah, when Charlotte and the Lakers played, they had a pair of former Ravens on the floor at the same time. Obviously, you're familiar with
Brandon Miller.
Thank you. I lost his last name. Brandon Miller, the number 2 pick of the Hornets. You may be a little less familiar with Damian Ball, who was a undrafted free agent signed by the Lakers following the draft. But Damian went and played prep school ball to finish his career. He did not graduate at Cane Ridge, but he went into a prep school and then finished his college career at TCU. I think he might have played at Memphis at some point, but again, signed as a free agent with the Lakers. And so when Charlotte and LA played the other night, they were both on the floor at the same time. And, for Marlon Sims and the staff over there, I can't imagine it being much cooler than that, to look up at an NBA game and see 2 guys that you've coached on the floor at the same time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So give him give those guys a big shout out.
No doubt.
Brandon Miller making top overall pick.
Victor Wembanyama.
Wemby. I keep
yes.
Yeah, Wemby.
I can't get it either.
Silly.
Don't feel bad.
Oh,
Victor has had a tough go over the last little bit between the Britney Spears situation and
I wonder how much that had to do with that might have had to play into that.
Yeah, it's been tough. It's been a tough transition to, it's kind of a welcome to the show kind of thing for Wemby.
And Brandon had a tough start to his summer league, but has turned it on in the last 2 games. So congrats to him. Looks like he's settling in at the professional level. Whatever you see in the summer league,
I'm not sure how much you can put into that because all those guys are trying to make a team.
Yeah.
Brandon is already on the team.
Right. So just calm down and let that
As a certain NFL quarterback would tell you, RELAX.
Yeah. Relax. So just calm down.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we come back at 2:00. We've got Chip Walters and
his sidekick.
And his sidekick, Jeff Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see you guys then on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint from the Lee Company studio. I'm Chris Yow. He's Mel Patton, and we'll see you tomorrow.